Well, now the vegetables are dried up and ready. So now it's time for some beef. This is hamburger meat. It's only beef, no ham or something from pork. It's only 5% fat, and that's a bit important if you want to dry these things up, because fat will reduce the lifespan of your product. So let's crack on. This is approximately 1 pound of grind up meat, and that's almost equal to half kilo. So what you want to do now is to not cook it, but to make all the red color disappear. Just fry it a little bit to get everything brown, and at the same time you need to make it into small pieces as possible, no large pieces. That will be very difficult to dry it out. Difficult to dry it if you have too large pieces. So so now I think we're ready, and we can go to the next step before dehydrating this meat. Well, be sure to have clean hands before such. Now we're going to rinse the meat to get rid of as much fat as possible. You see this white foamy stuff on top? That's fat. Fat is very important, and I love the fact to have fat in my food, but for dehydrating it's not very good. Now you start to use your hands, and you will see and feel if you get a little sticky or slick from the fat. And now you can work out and remove some of the big lumps or crush them in smaller parts. think that's good. Not much left. And I squeeze out the rest of the water. I'm using this net because the holes in my tray are too big for these small particles. So it's just a mosquito net, a nylon mosquito net, works fine. Now I try to make it as even as possible, and if you find some big lumps, I squeeze them to break them up. So, and now I'm ready. I put it in the middle. Depends on what type you have. I will explain how you should do it. But in mine, I find that the middle is a good way if I'm only using one tray. I put it on about 50 degrees. Now this should dry up within 5 hours. So now we have dried up the vegetables and the meat, and now I'll show you how I make my recipes for a field meal type of food. Well, I'm at my workbench in the basement, so that's how I have to clean it up a little bit. This is the meat. This is not this batch. It's my first batch. As you see, you get very small. So this is a half pound. It was twice as much after drying. So this is half a pound of dried beef hamburger meat. Here's my first batch of vegetables. Smell. It's good. And this is my second batch. I use another brand, and it's really dry and fine. So this is the one we dried on this video. So it works fine. So when it comes to vegetables, I don't cut up fresh vegetables. I use this finished mix from the store because it's very cheap and it's already cut up and ready for drying. If you cut up potatoes, you have to boil them first before you dry them, so it's a lot more work. So that's why I do it like this. So let's start make us something. I had my recipe here. So let's start with the vegetables. I use 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5 spoon of vegetables. I then add 2 spoons of meat. And I'm also using this rice. This is fast boiling rice. That means this rice have been boiled and dried in front. So this is already dehydrated and it's very cheap. So I add, what did I add? 1 spoon You can add more if you want to. Add 1, 2 on this, like so. And now to the good parts. This is mashed potatoes powder. It consists of 98% of potatoes and some other stuff, and this will make your stew more like a stew and not a soup. So I add this. I add 2 spoons of this, and then we have beef bouillon powder, and this bouillon I add 1.5 teaspoon approximately, so something like that, maybe. So, and this is brown sauce for use for when you're making meat or meatballs or something like that. You like brown sauce. This is brown sauce powder, and I added 1.5 to 2. Okay, a little bit more. It's not rocket science. It's not very accurate. It's just to get yourself a kind of equal type each time. And then I usually add some little bit of salt and pepper if I want that, or you can add some other kind of barbecue spices or something if you want to. So this is it. It's about 150 milliliters of solid stuff, and this and you need to add about 2.5, maybe 300 milliliter of water to make it good. For packing, I use this is vacuum sealing bags, and this is a vacuum sealer. Very simple, very cheap. Don't remember how much I paid for it. It wasn't much. And the same for the dehydrator. I didn't pay much. It wasn't much for that, but it works very well. Now I add this, all of this, into the bag, like so. This is your package. The weight of it, I'm not sure. It's not much, and it's very small. This is a complete dinner. So when you start drying stuff, put it in glass jars. It works fine. Another good thing to see, if you're not being able to dry it enough, when you turn it around the day after, you will see something sticking to the glass. If it does, it's not dried enough. No worries, you don't need to throw it away. Just put it back in the dryer and dry it for a couple hours more, and it will be good. Same for the meat and this other one. So after doing that, you pack it. You can pack it in a Ziploc bag and it works fine. But if you vacuum seal it, you'll remove most of the air and oxygen, and it will last longer. People with experience say that you should store them in the freezer. I haven't done that, but I haven't stored them for a very long time either. So I'm making them in front of a trip. For your own information, you should mark the packing date up here. And you can also, if you make different kind of recipes, you should also write what it is, because it's very hard to see what this is. But this is something, I call it a stew. As simple as that. Beef stew, if you want to. I'll give you my recipe. It's what I use. And you should experiment a little bit yourself and find something that fits you and fits your taste. But for me, this is good. It's with this kind of dried stuff, it kind of all the flavors blend into each other. So it's not like going to a fancy restaurant and get all these funny tastes. This is kind of everything put together, but it's good for what it's meant for, being out in the bush and get a meal in your stomach. Take my package. Dump it into the pot. Then add some water. I'm sure I have to add some more. And close time. Then I boil this. You don't necessarily need to boil it, but most of the time you're getting your water from the outside, so it's good to boil it up. It's no problem doing that, and we'll speed up the process. Well, now it's boiling enough, and we can take it off and put it aside and let it rest. So take it off the heat, put it aside, and put a lid on. Let's check the time. Well, now it has been resting for about 15 minutes, half the time as I used when just adding water. So let's see how it looks. These pieces of carrots and potatoes have hydrated back. It's very good. Let's have a taste. Ah, man, this was good. Ooh. This was... this is even better than I expected. Some of the pieces are a little bit not hard, but they are not completely soft yet. That doesn't matter. It will hydrate in your stomach anyway. Oh man, this was good. Ooh. Well, there's one more thing about dehydrated food, or dried food if you want. Is it more healthy? Is it more bad than fresh food. Does it lose a lot of nutrition? Well, that is typical question coming up. Well, when dehydrating, you are removing all the, or very much of the water content in the food. If it's meat, fruit, vegetables, doesn't matter. And that removes the possibility for bacteria and yeast and everything to grow, so it will last much longer. But the one thing it also does, it destroys vitamin C. So in any dried fruit, you will have a lack of vitamin C. So living on dried food alone on a very long time, that will give you a lack of vitamin C, so it's not perfect in that matter. But you can always learn a little bit about plants. In the nature, it's an abundance of vitamin C, so you can compensate for that. And you will keep the calories, you will keep the proteins, you will keep the nutritions in the food, but it will be in a much smaller package. It will be concentrated. So 1 gram of dried vegetable is much more nutrition than 1 gram of fresh vegetables. So that's a fact.